acting in a story that you know inevitably is building up toward a tragic ending, even if your characters might not necessarily view it as tragic?
I think that's it. You sort of don't. You just watch again and you think, oh, woman is a lovely guy. You laugh, you kind of follow you're in that story, and you kind of know what the end is, but you're not playing that in any moment, really. You're just, going about your business with your mother and whatever form that ends up taking. For me, yeah, it's always been that act of love, and I think that's the center of both of their relationships.
Yes, maybe you shouldn't be loving someone.
And even at the end, not to return to the end of episode 9, but he wanted them to both go together. It wasn't a serial killer. I had the act, so I he doesn't want to. He doesn't want to be a killer.
You didn't love me enough.
Anyway, I digress. But he is a loving guy.
Is it any different for you, Nestor, or you, Max, where I think your characters would view this as a tragedy, whereas Norma and Norman might just say, as you said, it's an act of love.
Thank you, yes. It's heartbreaking, it's tragic. I remember when I got the episode 9, where Norma dies, I remember reading it, and immediately I couldn't get through it without getting really choked up. And I know Carlton, we talked about this when you wrote it, you and Carrie wrote it, but you can explain what happened.
Yeah, I was actually, Carrie and I kind of trading the script back and forth, and I was working on the sort of section where Norma died, and I was on a plane, and I was like crying, and people were looking at me in a very weird fashion. But it was hard, it's even when you're doing it from the objective point of view, like it's impossible to do that way. And I remember when Carrie and I went into the editing room and we saw the scene cut together for the first time, we were like, oh shit, we are bastards. So this is like so sad. It was just so visceral and emotional. And even though you've kind of thought it through and we've talked about it for 4 years, when you actually see it and when you do it, it was just like a punch to the gut.
I started being upset about it like a year and a half ago.
I feel like I'm just throwing salt in the wounds with these questions, talking about sort of Norma's journey, but she loves her son. She loves her son. That's the one thing we know. She would do anything for her son. Given how it ended, do you think, looking back, she would have changed anything on the journey?
Well, I think she probably would have changed many cards that were dealt to her in life, but you can't change your DNA. You can't change the parents that you're born into. You couldn't change your brother. And then as a result of that, it was, her first marriage, and all of these abusive relationships, I think, really contributed to this terror in her life. I mean, like if she was standing at the pearly gates and God was, was considering her entrance, I think it's amazing though that terror did not contribute to, that she wasn't a cruel or a weak person as a result of that terror. Well, not at all times, I mean.
She is weak.
Okay, maybe she would have taken back.
She's scared. She gets scared.
But the cruelty, I'm just saying, maybe she could have taken back, like the clobbering of Mr. Real Estate Guy. That was a bit excessive.
No, that was awesome.
That's the one thing.
She would take that. Poor sign.
I don't know, I shouldn't have changed anything. I think, I think perhaps she might have,
I'm right here.
I think her, she had so much growth and so much illumination. She was so illuminated in terms of her denial and being able to find her voice. And I think that her tongue froze up there at the end, and I think she would have probably in hindsight admitted to the fact that she does not know how to fix her kid. Yeah, maybe that.
I like that. That's a great answer. Thank you. very tragic realization of when the one time he finally separated himself from his family, that was when his brother ended up killing his mother. Obviously, you haven't seen any script pages. These two know what's going to happen. We don't know yet. Well, what do you think is going to be most interesting, and what are you sort of most looking forward to about that moment when he does eventually find out that his mother died and under these sort of suspicious circumstances?
Yeah, I think that he's obviously, he's going to feel a lot of things. I think he's kind of, even though he's sort of always been rejected, he's kind of always tried to be there. And so I think he's going to feel some guilt and some responsibility, because it's like the one time when he's like, you know what, I have to cut myself off and I have to leave. And then he comes back, to find out that his mom is gone. I think that it's going to be devastating to him. I think also just kind of in terms of how they left off and how their relationship kind of ended. I think that's going to break his heart. I think it's going to be really, really tragic for him, and I think it's going to create a lot of difficult scenarios and situations for him to sort of navigate through and figure out how to deal with Norman, with the sheriff. I was going to say Nestor, but Alex O'Hara. I think it's going to be sad. I think it's going to be really sad. And then also kind of going back to, kind of realizing that this is like the end of Norma. For me, it's also, it's obviously, it's really sad not to be seeing Norma on screen anymore, but also on like a personal level, it was really sad, sort of this realization of that's probably the last scenes that I'm gonna have with Vera, I don't know, that Esther's gonna have with Vera, and it's getting to work with Vera for the past 4 years has been like such an amazing and just like loving experience, and so for that to kind of come to an end, not just on a show level, but on like a creative acting level, it sucks. It's sad,
I think that's the first time I just realized too, that that's what that means, and that is heartbreaking. So, not to shift gears too dramatically, but let's share some exciting news, some happy news. There's been a lot of speculation about who will eventually play the character of Marion Crane on Bates Motel, a very iconic character from Psycho, called Carey. Do you have any news, any announcements to share with us on that front?
Yeah, this was a big thing. As I said, we're doing our own version of the story, and yet we wanted to kind of cross in and out of some of the mythology from the movie. So we very much, wanted Marion Crane, who's so iconic in Psycho, to be a part of our story, but we wanted her to be very much our own character, and we felt in order to do that, we needed to find someone who was very, very special to play Marion, and we think we have done that. And I think rather than me telling you who that's going to be, we're going to let her tell you herself. So let's roll.